You're listening to Now I've Heard Everything, conversations with the icons of our time.
I don't ever look at those cats without thinking how magnificent they are. You know, there is a great deal more to the big cat than being the ferocious animal that we have all been led to believe.
Actress and animal rescue advocate Tippi Hedren today on Now I've Heard Everything. I'm Bill Thompson. Tippi Hedren's career began as a teenage model. She often appeared on magazine covers. And then later she started doing television commercials. And one of those commercials caught the attention of a very powerful man. One day, Tippi Hedren got the phone call with the magic words, "Alfred Hitchcock wants to put you under contract." She then starred in Hitchcock's The Birds in 1963 and Marnie in 1964. Now, a few years later, it was while she was filming 2 movies in Africa that Tippi Hedren realized her real-life passion, animal rescue. And by 1983, not only had she started a nonprofit foundation, but she had established her own wildlife sanctuary, which she called the Shambala Preserve. In 1985, Hedren published a book about her sanctuary. It was called The Cats of Shambala. Now they put her out on an author tour. 1985, I was 29 years old, had not been interviewing very long, but I could not pass up the chance to talk to somebody who had worked with the great Alfred Hitchcock. One of my favorite movies, The Birds, by the way. So in just a moment, our conversation.
No, Sherman, this isn't the Wayback Machine, but it is a look back at an interview from the 30-year archive of national radio personality Bill Thompson. Enjoy.
So here now, from 1985, Tippi Hedren.
How many times do you suppose, in the years since The Birds has come out, have you been asked, what was it like to work with Alfred Hitchcock?
I don't know that we can count that far. I think, but it you know, and it's such a complicated question too, because I think if we had 3 or 4 hours to sit and discuss him, maybe we could touch a part of the complexities of the man. And it's so funny too. I love to think of himself as being a very simple person. And of course, everyone who worked with him just kind of went, yes, really. The man was a genius. He had a great sense of humor. He was very self-indulgent. He was brutal. He loved holding court.
You said that he did things to you when you were making The Birds. He said things to you.
Well, he was a very manipulative man. And this being my first film, I don't know whether he would treat other, very, very established actors the same way that he did me. I have no way to say that. But, there were different scenes where he wanted, I can give you an example in Marnie, when Sean Connery finds me after I have literally ripped him off, he wanted me to look very, very, the scene was, I was very, very tense and nervous. I have been discovered, and it was after Marnie has left, she has stolen the money and bleached her hair and is off riding her horse, and Sean Connery finds her out riding and brings her back to the hotel and says, "Pack it up, we're coming with me," and she doesn't want to go. And I was supposed to be very, very nervous in that particular scene, and just before I went on to the set, Hitch said something to me that made me so angry and so nervous. But I was much too professional to walk off the set or do anything. I just said, I will carry through with this scene. But what it did was it made me almost forget my lines, which was perfect, because I was, searching for the words and all that sort of thing. So the cause and the effect it did exactly what he wanted to do.
It's incredible.
Not caring what was going on in my emotions or my feelings,
It's amazing that he had that ability to pick out the one thing to do that would make you...
It was fantastic. In the birds, when we were doing one of the... Remember in the house where the birds had been attacking everybody. They had done terrible things. The children at the party, the man with his eyes pecked out. I mean, all these different things. We had seen all of that. And they had boarded up the house and were sitting in the house and everything was just dead quiet. And then all of a sudden the sound started building up. Well, to aid the actors in that scene, Hitch had a drummer come in. And he had a very, very slow drum roll that started. And then it built and built and built and built to this crescendo. And it aided all of us in our performances, you know.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
How many times do you suppose Hitch was asked, what was it like working with Tippi Hedren?
I don't know. That's never been asked of me. That's terrific. Unfortunately, I can't answer that.
Was there ever any thought given to a Birds 2? We've had Psycho 2, not made by Alfred Hitchcock, of course, but was...
Oh, you know, I don't think so. I don't think so. You know, because I think the only thing that could have come out of that was an analogy of the birds was at the end of the world. You know, because, of course, this is a bit of an analogy to the atomic or, you know, nuclear warfare, that kind of thing. And I don't know whether... This might be interesting.
That's kind of, I suppose, a mark of Hitchcock's integrity, too, that there are some producers in Hollywood today who, if something is as successful as
let's everybody do it, right?
Yeah, let's everybody do it, and let's make this sequel, no matter how illogical it might be. Let's make another one. Let's make 5 more. What the heck?
Yes, absolutely.
But
and sometimes that's successful, sometimes it isn't.
You're here today. You're telling us about the cats of Shambala. What does Shambala mean?
Well, I don't. I wish somebody. I don't know. I wish somebody was an expertise in Sanskrit and would let me know whether it's Shambala or Shambala. I like to say Shambala. I think it sounds nice. Shambala is a Sanskrit word, and it means a meeting place of peace and harmony for all beings, animal and human.
That seems to pretty well sum up what you've got.
Yes, I think it does too. And I am so proud of this book. I mean, it has been wonderful to have been in, you know, the Hitchcock films and the Chaplin films and to have accomplishments during your life, but to have a goal of something that I had never done before, of writing a book, and to see it through and have it turn out as beautifully as I think. You know, the combination of talents of my co-author, Ted Taylor, my photographer, Bill Dow, Simon & Schuster's great talents and editing qualities. I mean, it is such a joy to me to sit and look at that book.
You must get hurt. I mean, you must get nipped every now and then. Somebody,
yes, we do.
Somebody gets a little rambunctious with the teeth or something like that.
Yes, we do. The tigers especially. The tigers are big knee fans. They really love to walk along and then just grab you by the knee. And we have to, you know, be very, very firm about not letting them do that. But every one of them like the knees. You know, you just reach around and...
Is that part of their instinct?
I don't know. I'll tell you one thing. I don't ever, ever look at those cats without thinking how magnificent they are. I have, in the 15 years that I've been doing this, that working with the big cat, getting to know him, to understand him and her, that I haven't said, aren't you magnificent? Not in your physical being, but in your total personality. You know, there is a great deal more to the big cat than being the ferocious animal that we have all been led to believe. He's very funny. He has a great capacity for love. He has a sense of humor. The fascinating parts of these animals is such a thrill. I've heard the lions roaring for, you know, all the time, and they never roar on cue. It's always their communication with each other. And I was in one of the compounds the other day, and several of the cats, we have 13 compounds, and several of the cats in another area started to roar. And then the cats in my the compound that I was in started to roar, and I was able to put my arms around that animal while he was roaring. It's the first time that I was actually next to a cat when they started to roar. You know, usually you're far away from them, or you're in your house or whatever. And I could not only hear that beautiful, wonderful sound, but I could feel the vibrations in that body. It comes from way down in their bellies, you know. And it was such a thrill. I mean, every day of my life on that ranch is a wonder, you know.
Do you ever get a day off? Is it tough to find a babysitter?
I have people who work for me who are very, very committed to the animals and care for them very much, and I have had to take the position of my animal handlers and my maintenance crew all know so well what they're doing. They know each animal. They know what animals need medication for any reason, whether it's somebody has received a bite, whether what days the birth control is administered, and everything that goes on with the maintenance of the ranch, so that I can leave at a spur of the moment and not have to have multiple meetings with everyone to say, you carry on this, you carry on that. Because I used to do all of the vet tech work. I used to do, most all of it, and now I have people who are totally capable.
Do you have people say to you, you have no business keeping animals like this. They belong in a zoo where they can get proper care?
They're getting proper care. They're getting the best care in the world. My cats are not in cages. They're living in great areas, some 4 to 5 acres. They have lakes to swim in and trees to climb, and they have relationships with each other.
Sounds like they have it better than in most zoos.
I think they do. But I am also very pro-zoo. I think the zoos of today are becoming very, very progressive in their thinking, that what is important to the animal, what are his needs, not how do we best exhibit the animal. And I am so happy when I go to a zoo and I can't find the lion because he's in such a lush area that if he wants to hide, he can do it. I think that's wonderful.
Do you like the National Zoo?
Yes, I do. Yes.
I've heard people out there who they come up and especially if they have kids, they say, now here's the lion's cage. They call it a cage. And they look in there and they can't see the lion because the lion's hiding, and they get mad.
I know they do. Well, I'm sorry for them. That's too bad. Come back another day and maybe they will see him. But due to the encroaching civilization and the man's greed, which causes the poaching and the sport hunting, we are very, very soon going to not see the animal in the wild. And I think it is going to be the zoos and the animal parks and the private parks like mine that we will be able to see these animals.
I have to admit to you, let me turn to the page here. Looking at the pages here of all the lions.
I did that deliberately because so often people would say to me, you mean you can tell them apart? You mean each one has a name? I said, well, of course they do. Well, look at the faces. Look how different they are.
Okay, here's my confession. I'm looking at the faces. I still can't tell them apart.
What? You can too.
All right, I can reading what the captions here. The massive head on Lurch and square face on Brutus. I could see subtle differences, but I guess maybe I'm just animal ignorant.
Well, I think you are, because to me, every one of those is as different as if you put 5 or 6 different people on a page. Isn't that amazing?
The book is kind of a bittersweet story, isn't it?
It is. It is. Indeed.
You've had ups and you've had a lot of downs.
Yes. Fortunately, the ups outweigh the downs, even though there were times when, when anybody received a bite, or when we'd run out of money and we'd have to sell property to keep the cats going, or when the flood hit and the whole entire ranch was destroyed and the police shot 3 of my lions. I certainly feel very, very close to these animals, especially the ones that I've raised as cubs. I feel extremely close. I relish the relationship that I have with them.
What will happen to them when Tippi Hedren is gone someday?
I I know that we have to put our elephants in the will because they're only 22 and 23, and they live to be 65 years old. Well, I don't know that I have another 65, to live. But I care very, very much for that, and the people that are working for me care also. And I don't know. It certainly is a problem that I do face.
Could you handle the thought of them going to a zoo after?
I'm going to have to handle that, but I'm becoming more and more acquainted with people in zoos around the world. And I am.
Would you be able to pick and choose? You think which zoo you'd want?
I hope so, but I don't even know that because I have such an enormous number of big cats, and the zoos can't afford the big cat.
Yeah.
And so it will be very, very definitely a problem. It is the greatest fear of my life that something would happen that I would not be able to support. The financial support of the animals. My former husband, Noel Marshall, takes most of the responsibility of financing the animals. And I have formed a foundation called the Roar Foundation, like the Lions Roar, as a tax-exempt foundation so that I can accept donations for people who do care about the animals and are interested in the studies that I am doing on the big cat. Because we've been able to study them in their societies, watching the friendships they have, the arguments they have, the loves that they have, all of it, and it's so unique that I think it's terribly important. It's a very important work.
Tippi Hedren will be 95 next month, and she's still in charge of Shambala Preserve. Now you can get your copy of The Cats of Shambala by Tippi Hedren by tapping the link in our show notes, by clicking the link in the description below if you're listening to this on YouTube, or by going to our website, heardeverything.com. We may earn an Amazon commission if you make a purchase. Heardeverything.com is where you can also hear my 1989 interview with one of the nation's great zookeepers, Jack Hanna.
People can relate to animal stories. It's a fun thing. Everybody relates to animals, both as far as stories or visiting a zoo, and I think that's what's really fun about a zoo.
And my 1990 conversation with someone else whose life is all about wildlife, Jane Goodall.
When I was a child, I had two dreams. One was to study animals, work with them, learn about them, preferably in Africa, and the other was to write books about them. So how fortunate I've been that those dreams have come true.
And of course, we post new episodes of Now I've Heard Everything every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and you can find us everywhere you listen to podcasts. And thank you so much for listening. Next time on Now I've Heard Everything, it's been just a little over 400 years this week since the arrival of the Mayflower. So we'll revisit my 2006 conversation with historian Nathaniel Philbrick.
They did not come to America in search of religious freedom. They came so that they could do their own thing without anybody bothering them. Their worldview was, our beliefs are right, the rest of the world is wrong.
That's next time on Now I've Heard Everything. I'm Bill Thompson.